From around the world and from CBS News in Cape Canaveral, Florida, this is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather and Bob Schieffer in our newsroom in New York.
Good evening. The countdown for the flight of the Space Shuttle Columbia has been dead letter perfect. But NASA officials are keeping their fingers crossed about the weather. Rain would delay the launch, and the weather officer for this mission says a good bet right now is that there will be showers in the morning. So whether Columbia blasts off at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time will depend in large part on the advice of the pilot flying the Weather Watch, John Young, who commanded the Columbia spaceship's first venture into orbit. I'll have more on the space shuttle later in the broadcast, but now we go to Bob Schieffer in New York for the rest of the day's news.
Dan, everyone, good evening. The internal squabbling among the president's foreign policy advisors reached new levels today, as did the president's efforts to damp down the family fight. Columnist Jack Anderson quoted Secretary of State Haig as saying that some administration officials are conducting a guerrilla campaign to discredit him. Anderson says when an advance copy of a column in which he said Haig had one foot on a banana peel reached the White House, the president himself called to say he was very pleased with Haig. The story is the latest in what has become a torrent of reports about friction among the administration's foreign policy advisors, and today the president used his strongest words yet on the subject. Robert Pierpoint reports.
During a picture-taking session with Greek Orthodox Primate Iakovos today, President Reagan did his best to dispel widespread reports that his foreign policy advisors are at odds.
The only thing I can figure about stopping the backbiting is convincing all of you that there is absolutely no foundation for any of these rumors that keep getting so much circulation. And I could appeal to your patriotism because I tell you, they're very destructive to our dealings worldwide. Now, we have a good Secretary of State, I think the best we've had in a long time. And he is well thought of abroad. And as I say, I haven't much faith in an unnamed source. Sometimes I wonder if there is such a thing as an unnamed source.
President Reagan professed not to know who is attacking his Secretary of State, and in the words of a White House spokesman, he is not conducting a witch hunt to find out. But Haig clearly has a good idea who it is. In a separate phone call to columnist Jack Anderson Saturday, the Secretary said it was obviously the handiwork of a White House aide who has been running a guerrilla campaign against him for 9 months. That points the finger at the President's National Security Advisor, Richard Allen, who has often disparaged the Secretary of State in private to reporters and others. While not confirming that Haig thinks Allen is the chief culprit, Haig's spokesman made it clear today that the Secretary has no plans to resign.
The Secretary intends to go on doing the job which the President has asked him to do to the best of his ability.
Late today, Presidential Advisor Allen strongly denied he is the source of criticism of Haig and said he had no idea who's doing it. But part of Haig's problem stems from serious policy disputes with presidential aides. For example, some want a get-tough policy with the NATO nations, which Haig believes won't work. Certain White House aides favor Taiwan over China's Peking government, which Haig believes is a mistake. The end result is a continuing struggle for President Reagan's support, which only the president himself can settle. Robert Pierpoint, CBS News at the State Department.
The president has received a new reading on the economy, and he says unless Congress comes up with more ways to cut spending, his hopes for a balanced budget in 1984 are out the window. Bill Plant has that story.
President Reagan is being told by his economic advisors that the nation's economy is in much worse shape than they predicted 4 months ago. CBS News has learned that Mr. Reagan has been looking at figures in meetings this week, which more than double the projected deficit for fiscal 82. If there are no further budget cuts and no new taxes, administration economists are saying that the budget deficit in fiscal 82 will be between $85 and $90 billion, $120 billion in 1983, and $133 to $150 billion in fiscal 84. That's the year Mr. Reagan promised to balance the budget. House Republican leader Robert Michael says that Mr. Reagan is adamant about not raising taxes and that he thinks the cuts will have to come from the so-called entitlement programs.
Do you really think Congress is going to go deeper into entitlements than it already has?
Oh, we're going to have to. Whenever they face up to the fact, they're just going to have to.
So the president faces some hard choices when he meets with the Republican congressional leadership on strategy. He can raise taxes, including levies on alcohol and tobacco. He can cut entitlement programs. He can veto appropriations bills which are too big. But his aides say that at this stage of the budget review, Mr. Reagan is still insisting on the program he proposed in September. Almost everyone else around him is convinced that there will have to be major changes. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
I see you're buying a long-lasting nasal spray. Why?
It gives me long-lasting relief.
How long?
Well, it says 8 to 10 hours.
Here's Duration nasal spray. How long does it give relief?
It says up to 12 hours. That's some difference.
That's 2 to 4 hours longer. That's because Duration has the longest-lasting nasal decongestant. Now, which one are you going to use?
Why, this one. Duration.
Duration with up to 2 to 4 hours more relief. The proof's on the package.
The only serious solution to indoor air pollution. Ecologizer CA90 air treatment systems. The unique CA90 natural cleansing system is scientifically superior to anything else. It removes tobacco smoke, odors, dust and pollen from the air continuously. Ecologizer CA90 air treatment systems for home, office, and auto. Anything else is less.
Jordan's King Hussein today ended his round of talks in Washington with President Reagan, talks that resulted in several disagreements but also revealed some significant agreement between the two leaders. Bob Simon reports.
They disagree on Camp David, on how to resolve the Palestinian problem, on whether Jordan should buy weapons from the Soviet Union. King Hussein is considering the purchase of Soviet ground-to-air missiles. But there was enough agreement for the king to compare the meeting favorably with other encounters he's had with American presidents over the last 25 years.
This particular meeting, at this particular time, in comparison with all my previous visits to Washington, has left me more reassured than any in the past and more confident of the future.
King Hussein went to lunch with the vice president, and the president was asked whether the king had sold him the Saudi peace plan, which calls for a Palestinian state on the west bank of the Jordan with its capital in Jerusalem.
We just found we agreed on a great many things. But not that. We agreed on the necessity of bringing peace to the Middle East.
President Reagan has come a long way towards the Hashemite kingdom's view of the world since he first took office, believing, as Mr. Reagan did then, that the Middle East was not a top priority and that there were many things more important there than the Palestinian problem. President Reagan has changed his mind, and King Hussein, the Middle East's most successful survivor, is smiling. Bob Simon, CBS News, Washington.
Reagan administration, in a notification to the Senate today, says it intends to approve the sale of sophisticated satellite equipment to an Arab group, some of whose members are on the diplomatic outs with the United States. Ike Pappas has that story.
The State Department letter to the Senate calls the project ArabSat, a plan to establish a regional satellite communications network in the Middle East. But listed among the possible benefactors by the State Department are hostile Libya and South Yemen, plus the Palestine Liberation Organization, which the United States does not recognize. And this is raising questions in Congress. Under the plan, some 21 Arab countries, plus the PLO, would have common use of 2 satellites to improve telephone and television transmissions in the region. The Ford Aerospace Company of Detroit has been subcontracted by a French corporation for $79 million to build part of the Arab satellites, which may eventually be carried into orbit by the U.S. Space Shuttle, according to the State Department. Congress has 30 days to approve the American participation in the project. Today, Defense Secretary Weinberger told the Senate Foreign Relations Committee he didn't know about the deal.
I do not believe, Senator, that at least at 1 or 2 levels, the Defense Department has had an opportunity to look at it. We certainly would do so.
Opposing senators fear the satellite system may have military applications and could upset the balance of power in the Middle East, possibly affecting Israeli security.
And here we have an administration that tells us how we got to get tough with the PLO, we're going to get tough with Libya, and we're selling them technology. It seems to me there's no consistency in their foreign policy. There may be an explanation of this, but it's clearly not on the face of the document.
Some senators are threatening to offer a resolution to reject the sale if Libya, South Yemen, and the PLO are not removed from the list of participants. Ike Pappas, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
And there are reports tonight that Israel is planning to signal its displeasure with Reagan administration policy by replacing the current Israeli ambassador to Washington, Ephraim Evron, with a hawkish American-educated member of parliament. Israel Television identifies him as Moshe Aarons, a senior member of Prime Minister Begin's ruling coalition.
This shield shows Total has 100% of the recommended daily allowance of these 9 vitamins and iron.
Right.
Put Total Shield on one of these boxes. See how the 9 vitamins compare.
I'll try cornflakes. 25%? Total's much higher. How's Total taste?
Crisp whole wheat flakes.
Mmm.
And 100% of these 9 vitamins. That's the total difference.
Fix Formula 44D, please.
Helen, with this nasty cough plus congestion, I need...
Formula 44D.
But Helen, I need a decongestant, not just strong cough medicine.
You need Formula 44D. It's strong like Formula 44. Has the strongest non-narcotic cough suppressant you can buy. Plus ingredients to help unstuff your nose and loosen up for chest congestion.
That's what I said. Formula 44D. Strong for coughs plus congestion.
There is perhaps no region in the world as strategically important to the United States these days as the Middle East. It is a region from which the United States gets much of its imported oil every day, but it's also a region in easy striking distance of the Soviet Union and Moscow's client states. So to defend this area and its crucial yet vulnerable oil fields, the Pentagon has created the Rapid Deployment Force, a force not without its critics. Tonight we have a report on that from Jim McManus.
This is Rapid Deployment Force headquarters at MacDill Air Force Base near Tampa, Florida. The Army, Navy, Marine, and Air Force units it would command in an emergency are scattered from Europe and the Indian Ocean to California. Its main forces in the United States, more than 7,000 air miles from the Persian Gulf.
If we put it all together on a worst-case basis and deployed, I'd have well over 250,000 people. That, I don't think, is a paper tiger.
The RDF can put tactical aircraft into a fight within 24 hours. 2,000 Marines with 15 days' supplies from Indian Ocean ships within 2 days. 12,000 Marines from California and an airborne division from the U.S. within a month. But the Rapid Deployment Force does not have enough cargo planes and ships to move main forces from the U.S. quickly and keep them supplied, and won't have for years. Does not have land or naval bases in the Gulf region with pre-positioned equipment and supplies to sustain a large fighting force. A persistent critic of the RDF says it's designed to meet the least likely threat of a Soviet invasion of the oil fields, that the Rapid Deployment Force is too big and too slow.
I would much prefer to have a smaller force, a ready force, in the area, on station, on ships, than to have a larger but far more ponderous and much slower force located here in the United States.
Military planners acknowledge the RDF has deficiencies, but its commander insists he can move fast enough to put up a credible fight.
A lot of folks think there is no rapidity in the Rapid Deployment Joint Task Force. I don't need to bring in simultaneously all of my divisions and my Marines, but I've got to get certain forces there very rapidly to take key areas and to make sure that they are denied, and I have that capability.
The Pentagon's 1982 budget earmarks $4.5 billion to beef up Persian Gulf defense, and so far Congress has raised no serious questions about that major U.S. military commitment. The Rapid Deployment Force is the only counterpunch available, and it is far less rapid and sustainable a force than military planners say is needed. And Congress and the President have hardly debated, much less forged an agreement, on how the RDF should be used and under what circumstances should it come to a fight over Persian Gulf oil. Jim McManus, CBS News, MacDill Air Force Base, Florida.
The standoff between Sweden and the Soviet Union over just what that grounded Soviet sub was doing in Swedish waters took a surprise twist today. The sub's captain returned to his vessel after meeting with Swedish interrogators and said he would not leave his stranded sub again, that if further questions were to be asked, the Swedes would have to come to him. Swedish officials said they were not satisfied with yesterday's interrogation, that they will not question the captain aboard the sub, that, quote, we are once again in deadlock. There'll be an unprecedented summit meeting in Poland tomorrow of the country's Communist Party leader and Prime Minister General Wojciech Jaruzelski, Roman Catholic Archbishop Joseph Glimp, and Solidarity Union leader Lech Walesa. It is presumed the three will discuss ways to solve Poland's labor and economic crises.
He was the kind of a guy who didn't expect much from today's small cars, just practicality, nothing more. Then he saw the 1982 Oldsmobile Omega and realized he'd been expecting too little. This four-cylinder, front-wheel drive Olds Omega had style. He could imagine the luxury inside, the smooth, quiet ride. Olds Omega, he smiled. Even today, there's still room to do it with style.
Job, standing all day, and now I've got hemorrhoids. Better not neglect them. I was hoping they'd go away. When I get a flare-up, Preparation H often gives me fast temporary relief from pain and itch. It's recommended by doctors, and Preparation H helps shrink swelling of inflamed hemorrhoidal tissues. I'll try Prep H. Ready for the big sale today? Thanks to Preparation H.
Doctor recommended Preparation H. Relieves pain and itch, even helps shrink swelling.
The Nuclear Regulatory Commission staff today ordered owners of California's Diablo Canyon Atomic Power Plant to arrange for 3 independent studies of the plant's design before it can be fully licensed. After meeting with Pacific Gas and Electric Company representatives, staff official Harold Denton ordered the studies, including one on earthquake resistance. The plant is licensed to test its reactor, but work halted in September after officials revealed that some supports for piping in the plant were incorrectly designed. In 1975, the American filmmaker Emile D'Antonio made a movie about the underground lives of the radical group called the Weathermen. Kathy Boudin was one of them. Her identity was camouflaged, but her words were her own. David Colhane now narrates this report about a young woman who was called one of the best and brightest.
My name is Kathy Boudin. I grew up in New York in a family that was a left family and taught me a lot about the questions of justice and injustice in the United States.
But now Kathy Boudin is learning at first hand about justice in the United States. This is Kathy Boudin under arrest for participation in a Brinks truck robbery that left 3 persons dead. How did it happen that Kathy Boudin, a magna cum laude graduate of Bryn Mawr, intelligent, idealistic, and attractive, could find herself faced with such charges? Listen to Kathy Boudin. Here she is in a 1975 film about the Weather Underground. She had already been with them for 5 years.
It was as if a lot of people who were feeling as angry as we were feeling and feeling the need to express that anger at the state and to build the strength of the people's movement in this country did express it. All around the country, there were demonstrations that were very angry. It definitely wasn't just us. It was really much, much bigger.
Listen to Jean Wilson, now a psychologist, recall her teenage friendship with Kathy Boudin.
I can tell you what kind of a person she was. She was magnetic, fun, very bright, very good athlete, tomboy. Popular. We had good times together.
And now listen to Kathy Boudin describe how she felt at age 17, watching a military parade in Castro's Cuba.
I had been cheering along with everybody else. Suddenly I realized that I was cheering for tanks and for guns, which is something that was completely opposite to what I had been brought up to do. My Cuban friend that was standing next to me saw my eyes fill up with tears.
And listen to Daniel Goldstein, a psychologist who has counseled people with a radical background at the Berkeley Free Clinic.
They tend to come from liberal families with values that stress the importance of other human beings, and at the same time they're headstrong, generally parents who tried to reason with them and did not set strong limits.
Kathy Boudin went underground and became a fugitive after an explosion destroyed a townhouse here in Greenwich Village in 1970, killing 3 persons. Today, a new and modern townhouse stands on the site, a demonstration of change, a symbol suggesting that those days of violence are gone. But apparently, for some people, nothing changed. Listen to the voice of Kathy Boudin talking about that explosion.
An explosion goes on. The rumble of it. It's that kind of time that can't be counted on a clock. It's that kind of time that seems to go on forever, and you have a chance to see your whole life in that moment.
And nearly 1/4 of the young men who were born in 1963 have failed so far to register for the draft when they turned 18 this year. Selective Service Chief Thomas Turnage said today 307,000 18-year-olds have failed to register, the largest number of violators in 1 year in Selective Service records. Officials told CBS News that they are not unduly concerned by the no-shows, that they expect most of the violators eventually will register.
When was the last time you took a look? When was the last time you cooked your old friend cream of wheat? It's nice to know the goodness still remains. Even the package looks the same. It's as good as you remember cream of wheat. Remember the mornings you woke up to a light, smooth taste that let the flavor shine through. It's as good as you remember cream of wheat.
Hello. I was a dedicated blade shaver till my wife bought me this Remington microscreen shaver because it would shave as close as a blade or your money back. The first microscreen is so thin it shaves incredibly close. The second even closer. And Remington's American made. It costs less. Norelco's imported. It costs much more. I was so impressed, I bought the company. The Remington microscreen shaves as close as a blade or I'll give you your money back. And the Lady Remington, the perfect gift. Also with a money-back guarantee.
All is ready and going well at the Kennedy Space Center for tomorrow's launch of the Space Shuttle Columbia. The countdown has proceeded flawlessly. The question here remains the weather, and officials are concerned about the possibility of rain or even very cloudy skies, either of which could make a launch unsafe. But as the new crew of the world's first reusable manned spacecraft appeared this morning with astronaut John Young, weather didn't seem a worry for Commander Joe Engle and pilot Richard Truly.
You bet your life. Everything looking good? Looks great. Beautiful out there.
Navy Captain Truly and Air Force Colonel Engle warmed up for tomorrow's launch with some last-minute flying and left it to shuttle officials to worry about tomorrow's forecast of cloudy skies and scattered showers.
Right now, I can't tell you whether we'll have one over at T0 or not. It may be a half hour after. Right now, we have to see how lucky we are.
I understand there's more weather coming later in the week, and our best chance may be tomorrow.
So Columbia stands ready, hoping to match the success of its first mission.
5, 4, we've gone for main engine start. We have main engine start. Liftoff of America's first space shuttle. And the shuttle has cleared the tower.
The 4.5 million pound spacecraft seemed to jump from its launch pad.
4 seconds. Looking good.
The first mission, a success. The shuttle proved its ability to launch under rocket power, orbit like a spacecraft, and re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, gliding like an airplane to a desert landing.
Columbia, you're really looking good. Right on the money.
It was like a mirage.
Welcome home, Columbia. Beautiful, beautiful.
It's a whole new concept in getting into and returning from space. And it is a flying machine. You do fly it up, and you do fly it back, and you land it like an airplane. So I think it's the very tip-top of what any test pilot could want to do.
I think as we fly several flights, we're going to get to know this craft and others that are following it, and rather than be endangered because we're flying a spacecraft that's flown before, exactly the opposite will be true.
Now, 7 months after the first flight, a month behind schedule, and over 100 modifications later, the problems that surfaced during the first mission have been corrected. There were the fuel tank supports, damaged during launch. Ignition of the booster rockets caused a powerful shock wave that created a whiplash effect up the spacecraft. Had the tanks ruptured, the mission would have been aborted. NASA plans to deluge the area with water this time to absorb that shock. The most serious delay for the second launch came in September, when 3 gallons of rocket fuel, nitrogen tetroxide, spilled. 378 sensitive tiles near the spacecraft's nose were damaged and needed repair.
In this business, we tend to train so thoroughly to things that could go wrong, anticipated anomalies, that I think we feel that we've covered anything that could go wrong. So darn busy coming up on it. This isn't time to get scared. We'll get scared after we get down there.
Ingle and Truly will log 5 days, 4 hours, and 10 minutes in space, twice as long as Columbia's first flight. Time for some scientific experiments. Making its first appearance, a 50-foot bionic arm called the Remote Manipulator System. While flexing its mechanical arm is all that's planned for this trip, the future for this space crane is boundless. Scientists see it in future missions, placing satellites into space. Ailing satellites could be plucked from their orbits and placed aboard for in-flight servicing. The crew will also oversee a package of instruments looking for mineral resources, testing air pollution in the atmosphere. And there'll be a touch of home. 72 dwarf sunflower seeds are traveling aboard to see how they'll grow in zero gravity. No worry about who will water them. They don't need to be touched.
We have an ambitious flight plan for 5 days, and it's going to take hard work to get everything done. But on the other hand, it's fun. It's going to be a kick.
Fun for the astronauts, important for science. But with its $10 billion price tag, it's been called an act of faith for the country. The shuttle still has a long way to go. Questions remain from private industry about profitability, durability, and capacity to work in outer space. Questions from the space agency, under severe budget pressures now, cutting back hardware and future missions. Questions, too, for the Reagan administration. With the Soviet Union already close to having a permanent presence in space, will the shuttle be one way to fulfill President Reagan's promise to restore America's technological prestige? Tomorrow morning's launch will raise the question once again: where does space exploration fit in our nation's priorities? Our coverage of that launch will begin at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 Central. Until then, Dan Rather, CBS News at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
Get the cat, now the cat runs longer than ever before.
The Cat. This new improved general purpose battery from Eveready is improved to run longer than ever.
But the cat's low price like it was before.
Same low prices. This economy 4-pack still costs less than 2 alkaline batteries. A longer running cat, and it still saves you money.
Save with the longer running cat.
What do hospitals use for relief of constipation? 9 out of 10 hospitals use gentle, dependable milk of magnesia. That's what comes in this bottle of Phillips. Most doctors agree milk of magnesia is gentler than the ingredient in both these laxatives, and unlike bulk laxatives that can take days to work, Phillips works dependably, usually overnight. Remember, 9 out of 10 hospitals use milk of magnesia. So get Phillips regular mint or convenient mint tablets.
From around the world and from CBS News in Cape Canaveral, Florida, this has been the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather and Bob Schieffer in our newsroom in New York. This is CBS.
A woman is stabbed to death in Rutherford County Hospital. We'll have that story coming up next on Eyewitness News.
The 1982 cars are here, and so are the 1982 prices. But now, American Motors makes buying an 82 easier with a 10% rebate off base list prices. That's $725 off this 1982 Concorde and $1,000 off this Eagle. You can apply the cash to your down payment or get a check. A 10% rebate.
See the tough Americans at your AMC dealer.